I get. There you go. That's the sound we're looking for.
Yes, let's go. Let's get it, man. How you feeling today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm amazing, bro. I got to speak to you. You here? Let's get this going, man. So just to get started, but
Yeah.
before I I can cut this part out and everything because I want to save this for my YouTube channel and everything like that.
Right, right,
So
right.
yeah, so I was just wanted to say I wanted to you go on like a podcast format, like more
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about you, talk about anything, any advice that you have, anything
Okay.
from that you feel like is valuable, really.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
because are you you're a producer, right? And an
I
artist?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a producer. I don't rap or anything like that though. It's more for you guys, but I'm still looking at what I can do in the future. But for now, I'm just like more focused on like producing, getting
Yeah.
my sound out there, getting everything that like from that point out there here.
Are you trying to focus on building your brand or what's the goal? I
That's the
know you have
main
questions for me too, but
that's That's the main thing for me. That's the main thing. I want to get my brain to a point where it reach the point that you are, basically. So it's more like I want to get to a point where when I post, people recognize my brand. Like when you post, I already know what you're gonna post. It's funny I say that, but I already know what it's gonna be like. I already know. Oh, I'm going to the store. Y'all want anything like stuff like that? Like, like
questions.
it's. I don't say I don't need to be doing that. I just want to know like how can I do it in my own way and
Right,
how
right, right.
what's your mental process like going about it like
Right. So the
yeah.
goal is always to break down what you want, what you need for your brand, and then making it your own. So what I used to do, which I'm considering doing moving forward, and if it's something you're interested in, we can talk about it later, but
Mm-hmm.
I used to do a program with producers and artists on Twitter, and it lasted between 3 and 6 months, depending on how often we were able to get on our calls.
Mm-hmm.
And we essentially did what I did for me, and I taught them how to do it and make it their own. So these 1 hour consultations are like a good starting point. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want more, we can discuss like really getting in depth, basically getting together every week, talking every week about what your goals are, if you're hitting them, if you're not, how we can get you to hit them, how we can make you more money with kit sales, all that kind of stuff on the internet. So
Okay.
it just depends on what you want, and then we go from there and then help you get to a point, where you're happy either getting more streams, getting more listeners, getting your
Yeah.
brand out there more, getting more awareness, right?
Okay.
So like you said, for me, you're used to like, oh, these are your types of tweets, this is what you do. We
Yeah.
kind of find what works for you, but also like blend the two ideas together and then present it to the world. So
Got you. Got you. And so, what's your mindset like about branding? How do you? So, what do you? What's is there a plan behind the madness? Because I know there a
yeah.
lot of time, like people think, oh, he just posting this, but there is a lot that go about like the behind the scenes of that. So, I just want to know what's
Right.
like your mindset behind Twitter. Like, do you have a game plan? Do you have a way or time that you post? Like, how do you go about that?
So, in terms of a tweet like template or like a doc for my tweets where they're just sitting there loaded up, I don't do anything like that. Everything that
Okay.
you do for me is like organic, off the top, from the brain, right then. I'll just get the idea and I'll tweet it. And
Mm,
sometimes it does well, and sometimes it doesn't do as well. And
of
it's just one
course.
of those things where you're constantly trying to see what works to build more engagement, to build the platform to reach more people. The
Mm-hmm.
goal is always to get your stuff in front of more people's eyes
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Okay, okay. And so how long you been taking this social media thing seriously, building a brand seriously?
Um, about 2020. So 4.5 years almost now. I've been doing this.
Wow. And that's
I've been on the platforms longer, but I've been like getting traction and engagement on Twitter and making sales off of Twitter since 2020.
Okay, because that's around the time I got around like following you too, like around 2020, 20.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been following you since
For a
then.
minute.
Yeah, I've been following you since then, and that you always been posting like your. I always watch your engagement, and it was you have one of the best engagement as a producer or a upcoming artist like that I've seen, especially on Twitter.
Appreciate it, bro.
I consider yourself you like as the Twitter king, like for sure. If there's one person that I need to listen to, that I need to learn from on just branding, you that guy. So what got you to the point where you got really good? What was the moment like where you feel like, okay, this is working, or is there something that you changed that made it feel like oh, this is working for you? Okay, this is.
Oh, we lost your camera.
Yeah, it's all good.
The moment that it changed. Well, there's I always remember this story. Oh, there you go. Got another angle. Um,
The other
I
camera
always
died.
remember, what was that?
The other camera died. That's why.
Oh, okay. No worries. It still works. I
No,
used to talk
yeah. So
podcasts like this all day long.
yeah.
Um, So there was a moment in 2020 when I was out to dinner with my wife at the time, and we were having like a nice meal with friends.
Hmm.
And somehow, by the grace of God, I don't, bro, like so much of this, like I'm gonna say, I have to say is God, because I don't know where it all comes from all the time. You never know, like every single time every client's gonna pay. You never know where everything's always gonna come from. You gotta
Of
just
course.
have faith and just go with it. But at the end of the day, we were at that dinner and it was like a $90 dinner or something like that. And all I remember is that I made enough sales at that dinner to pay for the dinner, like to
Wow.
basically pay off the dinner, right?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, like I think this is real. Like I think I can do this. I think I can make something from this. Like I think I can make this my full-time living. And that was when I first really started thinking that way.
Okay. Okay. And when did you start making music? How was your music production journey started? Like how did you get into like music production, being an artist? Did you start both of them at the same time, or did art being an artist come up later on?
I started playing guitar 20 years ago when I was 13.
Okay.
So I started playing guitar. I was in a band from like 15 until I was like 20. And then around 21, I started making my own music on the guitar.
Mm,
And I always wanted to learn how to produce. So around 22, I got Fruity Loops for the first time on my laptop. And then my laptop broke. And then it wasn't until I was like 28 was I able to get a laptop again with Ableton on it. And then so 28 was in 2018. So, I around then is when I really started taking producing more seriously. And then around 2020 is when I combined all the elements of guitar and production and like had a sound. And then I was selling those kits on Twitter.
okay, okay. So why inspire you to be an artist? Why make you decide one day, man, I wanna be like I wanna be an artist?
Like a rapper and a singer.
Yeah.
That started end of 2021 when my grandpa passed away, who taught me guitar. I said, I don't care
Mm,
anymore. I just want to play my music, make my music, and perform it for people.
wow.
And so, but I had started writing in, bro, 20, I started writing lyrics in like 2013. So
Mm,
for writing lyrics in 2013, didn't start recording myself until 2018. But in 2021, I was like, bro, I'm recording stuff and I'm putting it out. Like I'm
wow.
not holding anything back.
Wow.
Everything's going out to the market. So it was a long process to get there, but now I'm doing shows pretty regularly here in town, where I have the studio and I'm just building the network and the community in real life. So it's gone from the internet to real life again.
Hey, you doing amazing for yourself, man. I just want to say you are an inspiration. Like seeing people just doing, living out what they want. Like, cause deep inside of me, I want to be an artist. It's always that feeling to me. I'm like, oh,
Good.
maybe I can do that one day. But it's still that fear. I was like, nah, man. I just want to stick to the producing right now. But seeing you take that step, or just being proud of just dropping or just always dropping. Like you're always dropping some type of tape or some type of
Yeah.
song. So
Right now I'm dropping heavy. Yeah.
yeah, so that's an inspiration. It make people like me like want to take that next step. So what how do you go about creating your music? Like how do you what so like what's how do your creative process start? Like how does that start?
Um, Different ways, different times. So like a few years ago, it was like, I mean, it was just the divorce process. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was, this was
I've seen
2020.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it all, right? Even 2020. So,
Yeah.
um, that I was thinking about it yesterday in the gym. That tape was really easy to make because it was just so raw and real. So I was like,
Mm,
it is like I've been putting out music for like 9 months at that point consistently. And I was like, that was easy to write about, right? And to just like think about and to make songs about. Um, Sometimes like with that album, it was my guitar loops like inspired the sound. So I would play the loop, I'd sit there and just create a loop from
mm-hmm.
whatever I heard in my head, right? And then I would make the beat and then I would write the lyrics like on the spot. So that process for that album, I want to say some of those beats were probably already done, but the writing process for that album was like no more than 2 weeks, the writing and recording.
Wow.
So that came fast. Nowadays, it's a little different because that was a couple years ago. So nowadays, I might hear something or I might see something that inspires a lyric, or I might I just might be sitting down playing guitar and being like, okay, cool. I want to make a song out of that. So this next project, I want it to be more instrumental, more like a band sounding. So it might not be as rappy, it might be more singy, it might, so there's that. But it's just the inspiration, it'll come out of nowhere. But I always like to say, like, it's like I don't create it out of me, like it's God putting the ideas in me and then I'm
Mm.
there because I don't create anything on my own. Like there's always inspiration behind it some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And how do you stay motivated to create more? Because I know the first one was like, okay, I like that can come out easily, but
Yeah.
that's
That
one
wasn't
thing I
even the first one. That was like the third project that I did. So the
wow.
first the first one was also my grandpa passing. I wrote about all of that, and that was
Mm-hmm.
easy. So I'm learning how to write without loss.
Okay.
you
Hey,
know,
sad boy J, man.
we're moving on from that era, right? So it's like just a whole different process now, especially with the new studio. Clientele, getting people in here. There's that too. So there's just a lot of stuff always going on in this head. Like, gotta do something.
And before I get too far ahead of myself, right? So
Mhm.
when was the point where you felt like your music, the music like you was creating, not as of the rapping, because the rapping can come along the way, you can just re-record. But what was the point you felt like, okay, my music is good enough to go out there? Because I feel like that's the process I'm in right now.
Yeah,
Not in right now no more, because I'm like I put everything all my beats out on YouTube, so
yeah.
it's not a problem. But
Okay.
in the beginning of it, I was to a point where it's like, damn, dude, it's that good enough? Is that okay for me to post this? Or am I good enough to say that yo, I can talk about music production? Or like how was that process for you?
That thought is kind of always there.
Mm,
Like the thought of this isn't good enough, or I don't like this, or they won't like this. Those thoughts are like, that's why I only give myself 3 revisions per track, because otherwise I'll get in my head about it and I won't put anything out. So the thought process of like you're always going to question what you're doing, but I never think that you shouldn't show the world where you're at, what you're doing, and what you got going. Obviously, like this is music, right? So there could be like some people talk about some crazy stuff. I wouldn't put music like that out personally. If that's what they want to put out, that's what they're gonna put out. But
hey, control
I
that.
kind of always check myself in the music and I'm like, what am I saying? What am I talking about? What's the content matter? Am I okay with this? And if I am, then it goes out. And that's 95% of my songs probably. So I don't really hold back anything. It all kind of comes out over time.
So how, but that itself is a talent though, because I feel like that's just the biggest thing that music producers or artists even deal with, that stop them from starting something, or that stop them from sharing their process or sharing where they at. So how did you overcome that? What was the point where you feel like, man, I'm just gonna give it all to them. It doesn't matter.
That, like I was saying, that was like with my when my grandpa passed, like I was sitting in his room. He was downstairs and the whole family was there because he wanted to be around family when he passed. But I was sitting upstairs in his room playing his guitar, and I just said, I don't know if it was the loss of like the loved one or what it was, but I just said I don't care. Like I remember consciously thinking like I don't care what anyone says anymore. I don't care what my wife says. I don't care what my parents say. Like I don't care what they have to say, and more importantly, I don't care if they hear me making these songs in the room, because that was always a big mental barrier of like, oh, people can hear me. Oh, like what are they gonna think? Like, and bro, nobody tripped. Like nobody was tripping more than I was tripping up until that point to not constantly do it, right? So that once I was, it's just the constant process of saying I don't care. Like I don't care what they think. Like I need to get this out. And even 2 years later, some of these projects, I listen back to them and they speak to me now. And I
Mm,
understand better now than I did when I made them. So it's really for me, and then like a gift to give to you guys to show you guys where I'm at and what I'm working on. But like it's something I need to get out at this point. And like when there's downtime or when I have a minute in the studio, I'll just be like, okay, like let's make a song. Let's see what comes out. So it's not always planned and calculated and formulated. So
got you. I got you. Uh, s- do you have what's like your biggest tip, or what are some tips that you have for growing an online audience?
you got to be really involved with the community. So like what I tell everybody is you have to go find the people you're looking for. So, like for producer Twitter, for example, like if you're looking for accounts like that or producers or artists, like there's plenty of different ways to find them through the search bar, through interacting with a lot of big producers on Twitter and stuff. You'll
Mhm.
find just they'll come across your feed these days on the For You page.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in those comments that
Mm,
you can be interacting with, you can be building a community with, you can be building a relationship with, you can be seeing if they want loops, if they want beats. Asking that question is always the hardest thing, right?
mm, yeah.
Because usually it leads to money, a money conversation. But if it doesn't, it's always good to have a few free loops to give to
Yeah.
people, to offer to people no matter what. So that's what I like to do. That's how I started in this community. And that's kind of what I'm getting back to again now with opening this studio and kind of reopening the online business. Because for 2 years, when I was taking care of grandma, I wasn't focusing on this too much,
Yeah.
but kept the brand alive by still posting. I wasn't
Yeah.
selling a lot of services, but I
Yeah.
was posting on
You
Twitter.
you you are extremely active. And that's what
200,000 tweets.
that's what getting to. It's how many tweets that where you go like you like I have to post as many this many times a day. I cannot go this day without posting 10 times, 20 times, or without engaging in the comments like with this many times.
A lot of the tweets come, so like I don't know, the past couple days I haven't been on it super well, but and I take weekends off from checking notifications, but a lot of tweets will come to me when I'm checking my notifications. So like when I'm just staying up with the people who are staying up with me at this point, I'll sometimes have a question or a thought or an idea, and I'll just throw it out there. I try to keep it as music related as I can. I'll throw in encouraging stuff every now and then, or question like thought provoking stuff every now and then. But there is really no like, and then throughout the day, I might get an idea, throw it on Twitter, and just see what
Mm,
happens. But the the I like to say like the nonsense or the insanity can get lost in the notifications. So like if you don't have a set time when you're checking those notifications every day, then you might be in them throughout the entire day, constantly looking at your notifications, constantly trying to respond to people, and then you're just on your phone all day. And I don't like that personally. So I found a technique where it's like either in the morning or at night, I'm responding
mm.
to. but throughout the day, the work day, the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
I might throw something on Twitter, or I might check my page and see what people are saying to some of my tweets, especially the business oriented ones. Like
Yeah.
this is a great example of me being like, okay, in the middle of the day, checking my page, seeing who responded to the consultation tweet. You were one of them. I
Yeah.
hit up like 30 people, and you were one of the only people to say yes right now to
Wow.
getting a consultation. Right. And then it was like Saturday morning, and I got the deposit, and I was like, oh, okay. Check my phone to see who that was.
Yeah.
Sent you a DM, and I was like, all right, bro, let's get you on the calendar. Let's get it locked in, being focused on the things that are the most important, and then everything else comes later, right?
Mm.
The conversations, the friendships on Twitter, the talking to your responding to their tweets. I don't scroll the timeline a lot. I do scroll it, but not like all day long. But when I do, I try to respond. I try to interact. I try to at least give a like if it's something I'm into, right? Just constantly thinking about the community and how you can be involved and how you can give back. What you can give them even when they don't have money for you. A few,
Mm-hmm.
3 loops. Here's something, bro. Like, here's something. Like, what's your email? Start building your email list. It's a long process, but if you're diligent and constant at it every single day, everybody I've taught it to has seen success. They've
Mm.
made money, they've gotten more streams, they've gotten more views on their videos, they've built their brand out, they've consolidated who they are as a person online. Like, there's just a lot that you can learn with the consistency of it, but you gotta have those moments where you're like, I'm not gonna be on my phone 24/7. I'm gonna be in
Gotcha.
it for an hour in the morning, responding to people, maybe throwing out 10 responses to people, maybe coming up with some tweets in that time. But that's it.
Okay.
Otherwise, obviously when you're building it, maybe a little bit more throughout the day.
Yeah.
But if you got a 9 to 5, bro, and you can't be on your phone, it is what it is. You're
Nah.
hitting an hour at least to
Yeah.
building that brand and that persona and trying to make money online, right? It's better than nothing.
It is. It is. By the amount of time I see you on my timeline, I would think you be on your phone or just being on
I
online more.
check, I check, but it's not like if I catch myself on my phone for a long period during the day, that's when I put it down. Like my body, like, from looking down, my head might start hurting. I'm like, all right, I gotta put it down. Like yesterday I clicked the notification button on accident, so I didn't go through everything. Like, it's just, there's days when you're in it more, there's days when you're not, but the more consistent you are over time, the more chances are you're going to see results, right? And I'm living proof. Like, I'm pushing again on the internet. Here's the consultation. Here's a guitar client. Like, you're working the ground in front of you and seeing what comes from it. You never know. You're gonna get a bunch of no's. It's kind
Yeah.
of inevitable. You're gonna get a bunch of maybes, a bunch of hit me up on Fridays, and you put in your calendar or follow up on
Definitely.
this day. I think yesterday was the follow up day with you originally. Like, that was
Yeah.
in my calendar. Just remind, there's money in that, like in waiting for the money too. Like, there's clientele, there's business, it's there. You just gotta work that ground, and it's
Okay.
not always easy, but it's always there to be worked.
So let me ask you this question then. So now you got your streams and you got your Spotify and just getting people to
Listeners,
those
yeah.
things, your listeners, right? For example, for me right now, I'm building a funnel where I have a product in it. I bought this course where they showed you how to um um package like 15 beats and put it in some chorus and everything like that in there, which I thought was very interesting. So
Okay.
if you was somebody in that page where you starting out, right? Let's say I will start out right now and trying to build my Spotify or trying to build my getting people to that funnel. What would be the best way that you would go about like getting people engaged with yourself, with your
So like what I had done at one point a few years ago is built out an email list.
mm,
So a lot of people, what they do now, I have a lot of people I know in the industry, um, they'll their goal is always to get somebody's email. So like, hey bro, what's your email? I got some loops for you, right? Free little loop pack. Cool. Shoot that off to them. And then over time, those might be people that end up buying, right? So like, you give them 3 and then you're like, hey bro, just want to let you know, got a loop pack with 20 loops in it for $50 this week or this month, or
mm,
right? cool.
Yeah.
And they might start buying. And the same thing with the artists. Like, hey, bro, here's a few free beats, you know. And then you get a pack together of paid beats. Hey, bro, got a new pack together of paid beats. This is how much it is. Get the
Wow.
email. And then you just start constantly rinsing and repeating that list. There's money there too. So, like, through these funnels, like, I'm kind of the funnel. And like, for better or for worse, I've never really practiced the email list method too much. It's always been exactly how you saw, through the DMs, hitting up people, building relationships, and just going from there. But from those methods, the program emerged, the marketing program emerged. And I was like, oh, this might be a bit of a better way to sit in the room full time, have 5 or 6 clients that are paying me a higher premium package price, obviously, right? And for a 3 to 6 month period, because they're getting 12 calls with me, right?
Yeah,
So that's obviously more money.
of
And
course.
I'm sitting with them every week. They have my phone number. If they have any questions throughout the week, they can hit me up. And then that was kind of the transition away from always having to be in the DMs selling $100, $150, $250. I was still doing those things throughout that period because there was plenty of time throughout the day where I wasn't on calls with people. So I was like, well, there's got to be other work I can do. And if I wasn't doing paid work, then I was working on loops that I could give out to people. Right. So it
Mm,
never stopped. Like, the cycle was constant. And at one point, I was just locked into my room 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, when my wife at the time was working at the grooming salon here in town. So, I'd go out, get some food, go back in the room, eat the food in the room, and just keep on going. And that was for like a year and a half.
wow.
And so it's this process. What that always my question goes back to that. What do you want to do? What's your goal for your brand? What do you want to do with your brand? Right? Like, you just want people to hear your music. You don't care if they buy loop kits because you're cool with your 9 to 5. Great. We can work on getting your listeners up. We can work on building your brand awareness to push to Spotify, to
Yeah.
get people on Spotify or get people to your Instagram or whatever the case may be. But we always start here in terms of Twitter, unless you really only want to focus on Instagram, then we can focus only on Instagram. I've been on Instagram for 12 years,
Mm,
so I think that's how long it's been around. Yeah, since my birthday in 2010 is when Instagram came out. So that's
wow.
kind of but there's just lots of different ways to go about it, but you can
Got you.
translate these followings anywhere else. You just, I did it the other day. Drop your Instagram handles, I'll follow you back. Everybody did. I copied and pasted everybody's thing into the Instagram search bar, found them, gave them a few likes, followed them, went back to Twitter and said, hey, just followed you over there. Can you follow me back? That's the work. That's like,
Mm,
that's that's the work, that's the money, that's the hard work and effort to get you to 10,000 followers over time. Like, it takes a long time. And then people fall off, and then you just back and forth, constantly building, not getting discouraged by people falling away and moving forward.
is there like a it's great points, by the way. You giving me a lot of great points because a lot of times, like, you will see somebody online, or you will see the work, the audience that this person have. You would think you wouldn't know. You think, oh, it's just by posting they got it. Like, for example, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, yo, he posts 50 times a day. That's probably why, or like he get those people. But now it's more in details, more as of like building relationship, like engaging with to the post with the bigger producers, trying to just build relationship or give out free loops or free beats to
That's how
people.
it started.
So
Yeah, free loops.
yes, and eventually you can get them into buying something that's bigger than that.
Value, just value
Okay.
over time. And then eventually you hit them with the, yeah, bro, this is $20. Yeah, bro, this is $50. Yeah, that's $100 for the hour. You get to that point, but I mean, it's kind of like, you're not going to want to buy something from somebody who hasn't made any money, in terms of consultations and stuff like this. Like, I don't recommend that people jump on Twitter and start selling consultations. That doesn't make any sense. Like,
Exactly.
but like, there's people who try to do it. They buy accounts out and then they try to do that. I don't recommend it. But for me, it was ground up, bro. I've been on Twitter since 2011. Like,
Mm,
I didn't start making money on Twitter until 2020, I didn't start building my community of producers and artists until I was producing for 2 years, like consistently with Ableton, right? And then in 2020, I was like finding artists and producers and in these group chats and always posting videos in there of what my beats sounded like, and content and content and content and content and more content. And the more content you put out there, the more they see you, and the more you give them, the more they care about you. And then it just becomes this constant cycle. And the goal is to always get to a point where it's like, okay, great, I'm so busy selling small package points to all these people, $50 kits, $100 consultations. The next goal now is to make it so that I'm not selling 8 things. I only want to sell one thing, and I want to be in this room at a high price point because I've finally sold $10,000 worth of stuff on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Great. I don't want to keep doing that anymore. I want to do one thing and then maybe a few other things here and there throughout the day. But that's when you kind of start reaching for the higher price points because you've done a lot, you've made a lot, and you can teach people how to make a lot, right?
Yeah, they see your work. They see your work. They see, like, for example, I wouldn't be here with you if I didn't see what you're doing, for example.
Yeah. And then the second you saw a tweet about the consultations, you're like, okay, I'm interested.
I'm
right?
interested. I'm interested. I didn't even know that was a money thing involved, but just because it's you that was doing it, I'm willing to go and do that. I got you. It's bringing value to the people, making sure you
And now
get.
you're bringing them value through the video, right? So you market it, you post it, you share it, and they might learn something, and then they might want to keep going back to you because you're doing stuff like this, right? It's just a
Exactly.
constant cycle.
Mm, yeah, I got you. I got you. Thank you, man. Thank you. Um, so what my next question would have been, so obviously I kind of know the answer to this question, but I actually want to know more about this, the way you
Yeah.
go or you think about it. What's like your main platform? I know Twitter is your main platform, so would you suggest people focus on one platform, or would you suggest they build multiple platform, multiple where places like Facebook, LinkedIn, where they can
Yeah.
build communities in?
I personally would focus on one first because there's a lot, right? So I see a lot of producers like right now, even on Instagram, that I've seen on Twitter for, a year or two, maybe 6 months consistently, whatever, like interacting with me, interacting with people in the community. And then I see their Instagram and there's not a whole lot of interaction there. That's okay. Like I remember yesterday, like following people on Instagram, and they don't have like some people didn't have any likes on Instagram. That's all right. It's just make the account, get the placeholder there. It's sitting there, but like build on one place. Twitter just it seems like Twitter is the easiest to build a community on, for better or for worse, because there's gonna be a lot of people out there. It's Twitter, like who hate on you, who don't want to see what you post, who liked you but don't like you anymore. Like it just happens. The more interactive you are with the community, the more people are gonna come out of the woodwork and be like, "Oh, I'm not really feeling this." But more people than the haters, there will be more people who do like you. So as long as you're not out there saying like crazy stuff, like I don't get into too many debates. Like I'm not out there saying anything crazy to anyone. I'm not starting controversy. Like I talked a little bit about the Drake stuff. That's because I had something to say about it, and then I moved on. Like I might say a little bit more if there's more that comes out or whatever, but stay on topic, build a community where you want to. Like if you want to do it on Instagram, go ahead. I've had the most success on Twitter. A lot of people have had a lot of success on Twitter and then built on other platforms after. And it seems like it's a little bit easier to sell on Twitter. Like I know guys though that are selling on Instagram too. They're posting on their page, hey, buy one get one free beats for the next week. Got a bunch of comments. You get a bunch of people on the story swiping up. You get a bunch of people interacting, and then you hit up all those people that are like how I hit you up
Yeah,
after you responded to the tweet.
yeah.
That's the work that a lot of people are uncomfortable doing. But if we can break past that point, there's a lot of money that could be made there.
Do you have any sales background, or or if not,
Yeah.
what make you be comfortable? Because me, I have a little bit of a sales background,
Yeah.
and that's what put me out there to a point where like 2 years ago, this interview would never happen. Like, cause I would never not be
Yeah.
able to be able to talk to not be able to talk to people. I would be shy. I'd be like, oh, like I don't know. Let me not ask or why.
Mhm.
Like, how do you if how do you overcome that shyness or that feeling of not oh no not let me not do it or being scared of the no?
Yeah. It's once again like, at least for me right now, I think when I'm in the rhythm of things, even like for example, right now, like with all these consultations and stuff that I just opened up, and the guitar work and everything that I'm doing for people, um, it's most uncomfortable before you ask the first question. So like you throw the tweet out there, you get 3 to 5 people to respond. You hit the first person you're hitting up, that's when there's the most of the mental barrier. But once you
Mm,
get on a roll, it's
mm,
like you said, you have some sales background. So like once you knock on that first door or whatever it is that you're doing for sales, then you kind of get in a rhythm. You're like, all right, next one, next one. Like you just kind of just go with the flow of what's
yeah,
happening in the moment. Um, I do have car sales background experience. I have sold energy drinks, but I think a lot of it is like it's just my personality to just ask and be curious and see if people are interested. Like that, the conversational part of me, it makes it a little bit easier because I've always been a conversational person ever since I was a little kid, like a young kid, just like being open with my parents about everything and just having good relationships with people. That kind of shines on the internet now, right? So like that makes it easier, but then yeah, a lot of it, like I still feel uncomfortable sometimes, but I do it anyways. And the worst they're gonna say is no, or I'm good, or no thanks, bro, or maybe later. And that's not personal. That's not an attack against me. Like that's
it's
just
not.
it's just the no. It's that's all it is. Like, okay, great, thanks. Like, have a good day. Or like, I got a free loop kit if that's what the conversation is about, right? Like, oh yeah, bro, send it through. Then you got the email. Like it's just it's not that bad. Like it really isn't. Like, and if that's what's keeping you from like something that could be great, come on, like there's so much better stuff on the other side of that. Like this would have never happened if I would have just been
Yeah.
like, and once again, the engagement tweet thing, like, oh, that's just an engagement tweet. He doesn't care. He's just trying to get interaction on consultations. No, bro, I'm in those DMs. Like, I am sending those DMs to every single one of those people. It's not just for engagement. I'm looking to keep the business going or
Mm.
build, right? That's it. Like, hungry like you want it, right? You just got to be out there.
Um, when it comes to I watched that course, and if there was a better representation of a great example of people building from their social media and just getting people to buy their course, your Twitter is one of the great example for that. And the way you got me to just because I'm seeing it, I'm not even thinking about and no podcast, no recording. I'm just like, hey man, like if he's doing something, I'm definitely interested in it. And then
Yeah.
that led to this. So you are a great example of that, man. I just want to say that and condone you for that for doing that. Because that's what they talk about, like just being active online or just be but they can say it, but doing it and actually having the people come into your channel or being interested into what you gotta say is a different thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been built over time for sure. That interest and that constant engagement at this point, right?
now that we here, let me ask you that question. How do you get people so interested? Because for example, like how do you get people to be interested into your life? Like how do you know what to like okay, I'm gonna be vulnerable about this, or I'm not gonna be vulnerable about that, or like, hey, what? It's a fine line. What's like, what's the way you thinking about it? How do you feel about that? How do you go about it?
Um, it's there. It's always in generalities, like when it comes to like the big deep stuff. If I ever talk about that on the internet anymore, I don't know that I really get too deep on the internet anymore right now. I know like with the divorce, like I said 2 years ago, I did then, but all I talked about was just the fact that it was happening. I didn't talk about what anybody did to anybody. I didn't give any details. Just it was out of respect and like honor for the other person and not bashing them on the internet. Um Now it's, if anything, it's more about like my faith walk with God and my journey. That's where I'm kind of like dabbling, like, do they want to hear about that? I haven't really talked about it too much, but then I do, and then I get good responses. I don't get as much as like an engagement tweet or whatever you want to call that. But those questions too, also like those engagement tweet questions, I've been asking questions on the internet since 2010, bro. Like since Facebook, since before I was on Twitter. And my cousins were like, bro, make a Twitter. Like this is Twitter stuff. And I was like, okay. And I made a Twitter. Oh.
Mm,
And so like this whole thing is just like a lot of people like to account it to just like, oh, he just likes engagement. It's like think I just like asking questions, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then I engage back with as many people as I possibly can when I'm going through my notifications once a day, and then that's it. Like I'm not constantly in there responding the same thing to every single answer all the time. I'm sorry. Like that, if that makes me a bad person because oh, you're not interacting with everybody, it's just an engagement tweet. We're on here to get noticed. Like we're on here to build brands at this point. We're on here to make money. We're on here to push music. We're on here to conversate with people that we enjoy talking to. Like that's kind of the point of this whole thing is conversation. So like if you're mad at it, it's okay. You can be mad at it. That's not going to change what I do.
it doesn't.
No.
Doesn't.
And I used to get real personal on the internet. I used to say things that I shouldn't have said back in the day, or be mean, or be ignorant, or just dumb young kid, right? I'm 33, so that was 12 years ago at this point, 13 years ago. I just have learned what not to do through experience, for better or for worse.
For a person that's starting like me, or I'm not just starting, but I'm not with not much engagement like you. But how do you feel about like when you ask those questions and people not answering to you or they not giving you that feedback? How do you go about doing it? Do you just do it and then just leave it and keep going? But like you said, it took you long to get there, or do
Mhm.
you find other way or just interacting with people more to find engagement or just like you
Both,
know?
both. I remember this is what I always say, and I'm pretty sure it's true. It's 4 years ago at this point, but like in 2020, it was just a lot of like, who wants guitar loops? Who wants free guitar loops? I was tweeting stuff like that a lot. And then I was in these engagement chats, obviously hitting every single person up in that chat personally and being like, hey, I got guitar loops. Do you want them? Oh, yeah,
Mm,
sure, of course. And then you build it from there. So that was probably a strong support system. All the people that I was getting close to in the DMs just by giving them loops right away. Now a lot of people give loops away. It doesn't mean you can't give out loops. It still works. Like people
yeah.
are still making money off this, but um, it was kind of both. It was in the DMs and then on the timeline, right? So it was a little bit of both, growing naturally from both. So like you're getting two comments on that tweet, you better be responding to those two people. Like I don't know what else to tell you. This is the engagement you want. Build off of what is being given to you. The people that are giving their time to respond to you, give some time back. Give them 2 seconds, just a response. Most people don't. There's a lot of people that don't do that. They won't even do that. So I try to stay as active in the community as I possibly can.
Got you, got you. What separates you from um other producers or artists that's coming up right now? Artists that's coming up right now.
I think I'm really vulnerable. I think I talk about a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't talk about. I think the market's saturated with a lot of crap. We've been saying that for years. And I don't talk about too much of that stuff in my music. I talk about what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing, what I've experienced um, over a different sound. Like the stuff I'm making right now is probably more different than anything that I've heard before from myself. And so that too is, I don't think about what anybody else is doing too much either. Like I might listen to people's stuff here and there on Twitter. people I've become cool with or close to over the last few years. But I'm not going after a certain sound too much. Like even on this project that comes out on Friday, it's called Gradient. Like even there was one of the songs I straight up like took the auto tune off because I was like, nah, like I don't like the sound that it's giving my voice. Like a lot of people love it, a lot of people want it on everything, but I do my best to be as honest to me as possible in that moment with the music that I make. So no filler, no fluff, like no extra stuff that doesn't matter to me or that I'm not living. Like I'm not lying about my music, you know. Some people do, and that's okay. Some people don't. Some people are really going through it when they make that song. I have no idea how they do it because I have a hard enough time sober making music, and they're just like having a hard time in life, you know, using, abusing drugs, women, alcohol, whatever, and they're still making music. Respect to those people because it's so hard to do, like when you're going through it. So in that sense, so you know, it's just as honest to me as it possibly can be.
I think I will agree with that. The your honesty, the way you just so vulnerable, it just make everything seem that you can trust it. It just okay, this is what it is. It's Josh, man. It's just Josh doing this thing. So it just I can understand what you mean by that. What's an advice you have for upcoming producers and artists?
Find the community. I keep talking about community, but find the community you want to be a part of and build there, and then focus on money later. Like even the people that were in my program, it wasn't until about a month into teaching them where we were really seeing like results monetarily. And that's great. Like that's from zero to sometimes $1,200 a month in kit sales. Like, but that didn't come until they really worked the ground of the community they had in front of them. That didn't come until we were giving some free versions away to people so they knew what they were getting, and then hitting up that list when the paid kit came out, and then just constantly seeing who was interested. Like that all came later. First was always the community. First was always building with where you're at and what you're given, and the things that have been given to you and the talents and the abilities that you have. Use those and then build on that. Don't do it the other way where you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to sell it to people who don't even know who I am. Like, I still say there's a lot of truth in the whole, like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Like, I've tried to care for these people on the internet as much as I
Bars.
possibly could. And even with this last podcast run I did, like this last season, and now we're going into a new like in-person season here in the studio, like giving platforms to people that I just see, hey, you're doing numbers in the community. And if I'm reaching out to you, I'm not going to charge people to be on it. But if they're reaching out to me to try to use my platform to get numbers, then of course there's going to be, you know, a fee associated with it. But I'm always looking and pay, oh, they're new. Oh, where'd they come from? Who's that? Like, what are they doing? There's a lot of new people coming up in the community. And if you can plug in with them or show love to them or make music with them, even, which is always the hardest part to do over the internet, is making a
Yeah.
song. Um, I think you'll do well. I think anybody can do well following that formula. Now, whether or not they need somebody to be with them every week and mentor them and show them the way, and then that's kind of where I come into play, right? That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some people I've taught this information to, they've taken it day one and excelled with it just from one call or one conversation in person. But those people also had followings on other platforms as well. And so they were just like, okay, cool. I've done it there. I can do it here. Let me be myself here. And then it kind of just blows up
Yeah.
naturally over time. So it's different for everyone. It's not for everyone too, like sitting down with me once or twice a week and me being like, all right, bro, what worked last week? Oh, well, this did, and what didn't, and why? Let's be honest, why? Oh, well, I wasn't able to spend as much time. Okay, well, there we go. Like that's it's all good. You made something else a priority over this. So it's okay if this isn't your number one thing, but for me, it's kind of always been my number one thing. And even this studio space is like living proof of just like investing back in myself again. So you got to just be willing. Like, if this is really what you want, this is all I have. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else. Like, I'm 33 years old. Like, I decided 12 years ago I'm not going back to college. Like, what else? I've done so many other jobs. Like, there's kind of nothing else that I want to do. So then go do it. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing else. It's just the work at that point.
Yeah, I got you. I'm feeling like I'm almost in that phase where it's like it's nothing else. I just gotta keep pushing it and not letting the noise or life steer me other way. Because
Yeah.
now that led me to a next question. What's your advice to people that still want to do up, like, for example, for me, I always wanted to be a producer, but
Mm.
I get caught up sometimes into the 9 to 5, not the 9 to 5 of things for say, but in a different career where I stop producing, or not producing, but stop being focused so much on the production or in the building the brand for a year. And then you get back to it after that. So what's your advice to those people, and how would you go about that?
There's got to be grace. Before I did this, I was an Uber driver in 2019. That was the last like thing I did before COVID hit. So like all of 2019 full time, like end of 2018, all of 2019, I was out there 6 a.m. 2 p.m. That was my job. And some days I'd make more money, some days I'd make less, and then I'd come home and maybe 3 to 5 days a week at least, in the evenings, producing, playing guitar, making a beat out of it, or producing with loops, from like cymatics and stuff like that. And that built my SoundCloud from probably 0 beats to 2 to 300 pretty quickly, and now I'm over 1,000. And this is, like I said, this is all 2019, 2018 stuff. So this is
Yeah.
6 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And it was just a constant, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I had a social life and hung out with fans. I don't know how I was able to afford anything, bro. Like, it wasn't like I was making all kinds of crazy money, and I wasn't making any music money yet. Once again, God, 100%, because I mean, I was living back with my parents after my first divorce, and the thumbs up. And it was just one of those things where it was like, if it wasn't for like inexpensive rent and the half decent relationship I had with my parents of being able to stay there and like tolerate the environment at the time, or them tolerating me or whatever, it would have been harder for sure. Probably the whole roommate route, get a couple roommates so we could all have cheap rent or whatever. But um it's just worked out in my favor over time. But the second I started seeing some success on the internet, I just took it and ran with it. And then in that first year of 2020, probably like starting in the summer, June, July of 2020 until like October, November, something like that, it was like 10 grand. I like made 10 grand in kit sales, loop sales,
Wow.
consultations, teaching, mixing work, recording artists, like just like 6 or 7 different avenues of income at that point. And that was cool. And then that's when I was like, all right, like my boy reached out to me from Facebook. He saw my Twitter analytics on Facebook. He's like, bro, you need to be doing something different. Like, you're getting crazy, stupid numbers. I wasn't even at 10K yet on Twitter. And he was like, you need to teach people how to do what you're doing. Like, and I was like, oh, I do consultations. He's like, no, 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 no. You need to like in depth teach people over a 3 to 6 month program how to do what you're doing. Because if you can do that, there's a lot more money in teaching and mentoring than just like, hey, let's talk for an hour and see what your goals are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's when that came into play. And that was in 2021 when I started that program. And that lasted until like mid 2022. Started taking care of grandma and grandpa. Second divorce was just starting, and so it's just a lot going on. And then, but I never stopped tweeting, and then I still had a lot of clients still coming to me, like for guitar work, for mixing work, for guitar lessons. Not like it was like crazy full-time income or anything, but it just kind of sustained me. And now we're here, and I'm like, all right, next step, how do we get this going? How do we keep this going? And just like the next step of just exploration and next level of pressure, and it's good. It's just growing me once again, and I'm just
Gotcha.
uncomfortable, and it's raw and real, and we're learning. We're here.
Yeah. Did
um
you go to these people, or did they come to you? Like, did you have a space to put them in at the time?
You're talking about
Like when you was mixing for people, or if you
oh,
recording them and everything like
it
that.
was like a lot of, once I started building in the community of the free guitar work or the free guitar loops and all that stuff, I started having people come to me and being like, can you make guitar loops in this style? And I started making money with custom loops for people.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm doing again. I'm kind of just restarting it all over again now, is what I'm really doing. It's just like, okay, cool, still got the brand. Let's get out there and start working, right? So once the guitar loops and the free guitar loops and the money from that started coming in, and then I tweet who wants, doing $50 mix, or not even, I wouldn't tweet that. I'm just like, who wants mixing work? Oh, 10 people liked it. Hit up all 10. 5 people were hit up
So
all
even
five.
the people that like it too, you hitting them up.
Every single person. Every
Wow.
person. And like I'm starting to consider even hitting up story viewers on Instagram to see if they're interested in it. Like for sure the people who like the stories, if I know that they're into music, right? Like it's just like constantly paying attention to like where they are and where the work can come from, because you never know. Like, and then referrals too are always a great way. People in real life referring people over. That's always cool to see. But yeah, it's just one thing led to another, and then just from guitar work to mixing work to custom production to beats, sales, all of it. It was never always just one thing. And then when the marketing program came around, that was a big chunk of why I was able to stay home full time, and supplement, like, instead of my Uber Eats income. Because once like the pandemic started calming down, I went back out there and started doing Uber Eats. I wasn't doing Uber, I was just doing Uber Eats. And then I was constantly DMing people on my phone throughout the day, and constantly following up with people, and constantly selling to people still, and then coming home and then getting on my laptop and doing the work for the people. And it's just like a constant cycle of work. And eventually that's got to end, right? You can't do that forever. And then you don't have any free time. So then
Yeah.
that's when the program came in, spent 3 months developing that with my friend after I paid him to learn the back end. And then boom, like, we're here now. That was a couple years ago, but it was a process. It was all process, and it's all a constant process of seeing what's next, what's on the horizon, what the next step is. I don't always know, but I'm learning, and there's faith involved, and then there's the work that I'm putting in, right?
Yeah. Got you. Um, how do you go about handling negative feedback online? How do you how do you handle that?
I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't really, like, I just don't generally touch it. I stopped searching my name when I did my DJ Payne interview like 4 months ago or so.
Congrats on that, by the way.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I did one for him, he did one for me. Um, and I told him in that, I think it was my call, one of the calls with him, I was like, yeah, like I'll search my name. I just did it right before this call. He's like, bro, you gotta stop doing that. Like it's nonsense. Like it's just insane what people say about you. Like they don't want to tweet you, they don't want to at you, they just want to talk about you. Like you stay away. Like you stay. And I've had a few people over the podcast over the last few months be like, yeah, like I've noticed how like you're not really in too much drama or beef or anything. And I'm really not. Like I'm not a problematic person. I don't like causing problems. I don't like perpetuating, online violence or whatever you want to call it, hate speech. Like I'm not interested in it. I'm not there for that. That's not why I'm on the platform. And so when people switch up or want to start talking crap or whatever, I might notice it sometimes. That I would only really notice it when I'd search my name, like, oh, now so and so is saying something, right? But it's usually like pretty harmless. But then there's some wild people out there. I've had people make diss tracks and apologize to me and be like, I'm sorry, like my bad, like over time, like a couple times, like we've
Wow.
become cool, but like I just I don't pay too much attention to that stuff. I know it's out there. I do. I know that much, but it's okay. It's over there. It's not here where I'm
Yeah.
going, where I'm
I,
headed.
One thing I always remember, I don't know if I came up with this, but I think along the time I said to myself, if Jesus had haters, who's me to not have haters? So
And
people
Jesus had people in his camp. He had Judas's, smiling in his face, like saying this, you're amazing, you're great, and then betraying. Like
exactly.
you got to be
Yeah.
smart and discern and wise. talking to my grandma about that yesterday about Jesus, about Judas. I was like, some people, it's the whole Thanos thing. Like, I don't know if you watched Endgame, Marvel, and like, you know, Avengers Endgame, but you know, I think, was it him? Some no, I think it's Bane. Bane in Batman, he goes, I'm necessary evil. Like Judas is kind of like a necessary evil in the Bible. Like he had to be there too.
Mm-hmm.
And that trips people up because, well, that's God. He can do whatever. It's like, bro, like Satan too. Like Satan's because we have fallen in their sin, but like there's some people that are just that way and they're gonna be that way, and you gotta let them be that over there. Like the
Yeah.
second they show that that's who they are to you, you don't have to associate with them at all. There's
Yeah.
some people
Especially
that
in the music industry. I don't know why it's that here. It's like it's constantly there's you and
and
you
we're
I
the independents, bro. Like we're not even label artists. Like we're
yeah,
just doing our own thing, existing here, and there's still some nonsense. Like it's gonna,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um yeah, I see that. So let's leave that for another time.
you know,
So
negativity.
yeah, let's do that. So what's an advice for an artist wanting to monetize themselves? Like how would they go about that?
A lot of the artists that were in my program that were also producers, something that we found that worked were acapella kits. So
Pelicans.
hooks, usually was hooks or like vocal packs or one shot vocal packs, those kinds of things. Like there is a community and there are people who do want things like that. I just remember when Cymatic started doing vocal packs where it was just little vocal runs or little hooks maybe or something, and I started making beats out of those. Once I started this program up, I really realized that these artists could benefit from their voice as well as us producers, because back then I was really only producing. We're benefiting off of our guitar playing skills or piano playing skills or loop making skills or whatever the case may be. I was like, oh, artists can 100% be selling their vocal packs to producers.
Yeah,
Um, and lots of artists these days, like even like DJ Payne as a producer, he's got a lot of beats that he sells that have hooks already in them, pre-made
yeah,
hooks. So there is a market for that stuff that a lot of artists don't think about if they wanted to start selling themselves like that. Now, what I've noticed is like a lot of artists just like to focus on artistry. And I don't know if that's because they think the whole production side is a lot of work and the mixing side is hard or whatever. And I'm sure I could be wrong. I'm sure I know of plenty of artists that do it all too, like me, but um at the end of the day, like there are a few different ways you can monetize as an artist. Obviously, features. I've made money off of features. Like I've had a couple of people hit me up off Twitter and be like, "What's your feature price? Would love to get you on a song." Um, that's always a great route to go to. Um, it's just features are kind of tough because they can be subjective to the listener or to the artist that's reaching out to you. If they like you and they don't know you like that, then they might be willing to offer you money. But I don't know if it's a, you know, I know a lot of artists have had a lot of great success though selling different features to different artists out there in the community. So there's those two ways for sure. It's features and then vocal packs. Um, and just finding, some people sell vocal chains, bro. If people really like the way their voice sounds, they will sell their
like presets. Yeah.
Mhm. There's a big community there. I haven't personally explored it too much in terms of selling that. I've never done anything like that, but I do know that there's a market for that. So,
There is because I know like lately that's one thing I've been looking into, like just buying new
oh,
presets just for no
I
reason too.
want to
Not
sound like Travis Scott, you know, like
yeah.
that whole thing. So there's people making those, you know.
Mm,
Well, that sounds like Travis. I'm gonna sell it, you know. So lots of different ways to get creative with this to make money. And when the creativity is there first, I think the money always follows second. You know, that's been my experience with this whole thing.
yeah.
Guitar, create playing something, and then the money came. People started hitting me up. How much? How much? I don't know, 25 bucks a loop back then. I didn't know. I was with my dad doing a side job on the roof here, doing air conditioning work by the beach or something like that, you know? And I was like, Dad, they're asking me how much for my services. I don't know. And he's like, how long does it take you? 30 minutes. Okay, $25 sounds good. And then you just build off that, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, 30 minutes, a loop. So, and that's on a good day. So it's just one of those things where there's no book for this stuff, bro. Like there's nobody who's gonna say this is how much you should charge. This is how much you're worth. It's really just what you think you're worth in that moment for that thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's there though. There's definitely money to be had. Whether or not you want to do the work for the money that's there is a whole different story. But it's not the most glorious lifestyle. You're kind of in a room all day and then you go on a walk and then you come back and you're in a room all day. Like it's not like this perfect thing, but it's if this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I've wanted to be a musician and an artist for such a long time. Like this is all just an extension of me and it's the work that I've created. Like not necessarily me 100% from my efforts all the time. Like I said, there's sometimes clients come out of nowhere and like that's when I always feel like it's God and it's encouraging because I'm just like, I didn't know where that was going to come from. Or even you, like, you're like, yeah, bro, like in a couple of days. And then you sent the deposit early and I was like, cool. Like, getting ready for the day and look at my phone and there's a notification for it. And that's awesome. But it's just a constant mindset of like, what's next? What can I work on? And maybe that's not the healthiest thing. Maybe that's something I need to work on. Just being like, all right, God, like you got it. Like I can't always be pushing like myself 24/7. It's not the healthiest thing, but I'm learning again, right? I'm getting in this environment full time again, and I'm learning again, right? Because grandma, we found a new place for her to live and everything, and so this is the next step. This is the next step that we're taking, and it's a big space, it's a big responsibility, but I think I can do it, and better saying yes and figuring it out than no and never knowing if you
Yeah.
could,
I
you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with you. What's your thought of the current state of music right now? Like,
It's crazy. I think it's crazy. We've never seen this. Like personally, I since I've been alive and listening to music, beef has been one thing, but this beef that we're seeing now and these allegations that we're hearing, and we never heard stuff like this before. It was always just like, I slept with your girl or your mom sucks. Now it's like, he's a what? Like, okay,
yeah,
okay. Like, and I don't think it's just for shock value. Like we're hearing a lot of stuff now in our industry that we were only hearing about in other industries, or maybe we just weren't paying attention to. And we're all just kind of like questioning what's true and what's not. We've never been here before. Like this has not been a thing. So it's interesting to see, and I'm interested in seeing what comes next. And even yesterday, like there's just it, bro, freaking there's some of these guys are just out there living scot-free with these allegations against them. That's fine. Like I get it, guilty or innocent, innocent until proven guilty, but like these are so like
it's
I understand not speaking to hate. I get that, but you got 10 or 20 people with lawsuits. Like it's hard for me to believe that everyone's lying. You
mm-hmm,
know, that's coming
mm-hmm.
against people. So we'll see. It's crazy. It's nonsense, and I think people are just becoming exposed for who they are personally, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a lot, and then we're here just making our music, keeping our businesses going.
That's the
Everything's
goal. That I think that's what I learned as a music producer, and it's more of the back end of the business. It's not just about like just being the famous artist. It's more as of doing the work, putting the work in every day, running a business, doing this type of
yeah,
stuff. I think that's what
yeah.
I learned.
And we have a voice. We vote with our feet, right? So like, I'm even personally like I'm even thinking about like getting off Spotify and just kind of doing the whole CD thing or like buy my music online type of thing. Like I'm just kind of reevaluating everything in my head. Like what do I want to do? How do I want to move forward? And then us as the independent artists or just people in general, like we have a voice to choose what we listen to, who we listen to, and why. Like I think this whole narrative of separating the art from the artist is kind of getting really blurry for a lot of people.
It
Like
is.
it used to be like, oh yeah, no, like that's them, like it's all good. Now it's like, wait, like that's them. Like, do I want to listen? Do I want to support? I'm hearing this differently now. It seems different, and I don't know, bro. Like we're kind of at a decision point of what we're going to do as artists and producers and who we're going to support and what we really want to do. So
Yeah, yeah. I think
I think
now we get into that spotlight where people are really looking to make a decision. Like they're more aware now
well,
of
and I didn't want to have to. I wanted to stay out of all this stuff, and now it's coming to our front door.
and
It
it's the
is.
biggest people happening too. So it's kind of hard to
It
ignore.
is. I used to try to like avoid posting content like this on the internet. Not this particularly, but just like about I choose him, I'm doing this. I used to now I'm kind of in a place where it's like I don't feel right if I don't. Like
Yeah,
if I don't make a decision.
and that's where I am at. Because if you don't make a decision, you leave it for somebody
Mhm.
else that might not even know to make this decision for us.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
starting to feel like my parents, like in 2020, they were like, oh, don't shop here, don't do this, don't do that, right? That whole narrative. And like that I didn't really trip on too much, but now I'm just kind of like, man, is it really this bad? Like, and don't get me wrong, like I 100% always think that like there's hope and God's gonna take care of things, but like you see the state of the world, right? And the Bible talks about that. Like the world is one of our enemies. Like it's bro, it's crazy. Like we're living in it and we're a light and we're supposed to be good to people and amazing, awesome representations of Christ and all that kind of stuff. Me personally, my beliefs, but even that one day is going to get persecuted. Even believing what the world doesn't believe, like
yeah,
you're gonna get persecuted for what you believe in. Like it's kind of inevitable, and it kind of comes with the territory of what we signed up for. So just
yeah,
buckle and just do it. Like it's just don't be a jerk, but some people aren't gonna like you just because you're you.
yeah.
There's,
It's
your spirit won't align with theirs
with
or
theirs. Yeah,
even what they're involved in.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't control that. Like I was trying to do the whole LA thing for 4 months last year, and not that it didn't get me anywhere, but it did reinforce and show me like I don't think I want anything to do with this direct part of the industry. Like
yeah,
if I've done well independently, I think I can keep doing well independently. You know, like I don't need to be signed to any of this and partnered with any of this or
yeah,
because I'm okay. I'm okay. Like even if I had to go back to working in an industry that I was in before all of this, if it was that over siding with the nonsense, like
mm-hmm,
but if I can make my voice stand and make my voice heard with the platform I have to take a stand in this community that I've built and been a part of, I'm gonna do that a hundred times out of the day instead of falter and be like, oh well, maybe it's not that bad. It's like, dude, there's way more of us than them. Like
yeah.
we have a voice, we can take a stand.
Oh
Like
yeah, oh
if it's a
yeah,
revolution in music that's coming, which would be crazy because I don't know the last time we saw something like that. Like things can change. There's plenty of us out there. We're all on the internet. We know that we can make it a real thing in real life and just and change things and enact policies and whatever. But we'll see. We'll see where all this leads us. It's very interesting times to say the
yeah.
least.
It is. It is. Um,
Yeah.
question for you: how do you go about your releases? What? How do you plan? How do you promote your releases? Like, you dropping a song or you dropping an album. How do you roll that out and get people to be aware of it?
Well, my socials help. Um, so for example, like this last one, for better or for worse, I know it's not the release schedules that we're taught or whatever, but I have this interesting perspective when it comes to it. The biggest part about this whole thing is your old music isn't old music to your new followers, right?
Mm,
So I kind of just drop. Like I finished a project, finished mixing and mastering it last week, submitted it to streaming services. It's coming out on Friday. I'll be tweeting about it. I'll be sharing content about it. I will then go and film videos for it, right? I'll
mm-hmm.
film content for it and then I'll put that out and I'll keep on sharing that until the new release, right? And so it's just a constant flow of content in regards to the music. But what's funny is, I mean, my monthlies go up and down. They vary. Right now, they've been between 5 and 700, which is so funny about this whole thing is like I've made a living off of this. And it was never because of my Spotify streams or anything. It was always because of the value that I could bring to the community and sell and
I
therefore
got
money, right? It was never this, I have a million Spotify listeners. Like I'm a big artist, pay me to be on your album. Like that was a very, very small fraction of the equation with the couple people that have paid me for features. But yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, it's done. Okay, let's put it out like in the next week or two and just see how it does and see how people receive to it. I will make song breakdown videos for the albums. I'll make visual content for the album. I do all my own artwork still. And I'll just put it out and then I'll tweet about it. And then if people are interested, I'll send them links. It's just this constant organic flow of just sharing and just seeing what works and what quote unquote doesn't. I'll delete tweets sometimes if they don't do well within the first hour or 10 or 20 minutes sometimes. And I'll just be like, okay, like I don't think they want to hear about that. And maybe that's true and maybe it's the wrong time. So you never know, right?
Yeah.
You just never know. But
Gotcha.
I release and then I figure out all the details later in terms of video and in terms of content and when to put it out, especially with this whole undertaking of the whole new studio too, right? It's like I still want to put out new music, but I want to get the studio off the ground as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you if I was able to focus on music 100% of the time, dropping music, creating content, not having to think about money, not having to think about bills, it might be a little bit different where I'm just like, cool, I got the video ready, it's shot, it's paid for, and money's not. I mean, it's not that money is an object, so to speak. It's just more so like, great, there's more responsibility on my shoulders, so I need to step up to the occasion and pay the bills. And so that's kind of way more on my mind, and I still want to put out music, and then I still want to put out content, and it's just a lot. It's kind of like a constant process of what's next. And oh, that's a good content idea. Great, go make it. Okay, now go edit it. Okay, now put the captions to it. Now make sure the music's synced up to it. Now put it on socials. Now put it on all socials. Now do it again tomorrow. Like that's a lot. And maybe if I only focused on Twitter and I didn't care about Instagram, it wouldn't be so much, right? But there's only so much I can do, and I want to do both platforms because
Yeah.
I've been on both constantly. And then of course I want to build my YouTube, and I want to post the podcast to YouTube, the full form there, and then I want to put snippets on Twitter, and I want to put snippets on Instagram, and I want to post an outfit picture, and I want to. There's a lot. That's a lot. Like
So
I have nobody right helping.
what's so can we go a little bit more in detail about your content strategy? Like what are you thinking? So you got this song or you got this album. What are
Yeah.
some things that you're making sure that you gotta have to like
What
visually?
when the idea comes to me for the visual, then I'll either hit up my videographer or I'll start filming content for it on my own in the space. So I'll either make the breakdown videos or I'll the little shorts. Sometimes I'll do the whole like singing to the camera thing where it's just me in the room with my tripod and just like just showing off the song, a little snippet of the song and posting
Yeah,
that TikTok method, whatever you want to call it.
I got you.
But I'm lucky and blessed that one of my good friends and one of my cousins, he's a videographer, and we'll find some time every now and then on the weekends when we can go and shoot stuff. And at this point I don't even have him edit my stuff, like this last video that we shot. I just said just send me the footage and I'll piece it together myself, because I put that on his shoulders, and he's not really looking for money either, but he edits and does that for videos full time anyways for a company. So, it's one of those things where it's like, thank you, bro. I appreciate the footage. And he's not, looking for money or anything, but I don't want to put extra work on his plate by having him edit it. I'd
Yeah.
rather, hey, I got it. Like, let me do it. I'll find my own time to do it. I'm doing daily vlogs now. Not daily vlogs, but vlogs throughout the week of this whole process because people are interested. Like, there's just a lot of ideas that are flowing out of me, and I'm trying to channel them in one direction, but maybe I just need to let the chips fall as they may and just let it be and just not try to fight the process. Because a lot of these times I'm just like, okay, I didn't put out a video today yet. Like I got to edit it. I still need to do this and that and the other. And then life happens. And then it's my mom's birthday. And then it's Mother's Day. And then I'm like, all right, well, it's a lot, bro. Like it's just there's no easy way around this. To just be like, it's just life. Like there's these stressors come, and then what are you gonna do? How are you gonna respond to the situations? And then you got to get it out. I put it out to people, and here's my content, and here's my I'm in a group chat now for content on Instagram because one of my boys that I know through my cousin, he's starting that, and he wants to get creators together, and we'll see. it's all just kind of like a trial process with all this stuff right now. And then trusting God that it's all gonna work out, you know. So, and me being as diligent as I can with my time and my efforts to make as much money as possible to keep the operation going. So
got you. My man.
it's a
Hey,
lot. Sorry, I don't mean to
I
overwhelm you.
no, no, you did not. You today, the what I feel like I got from this were to just be me, like to just be
100%.
who I am 100% and not hold it back. Like I feel like a lot of time the fear of just like, oh, I'm scared. I'm not scared, but you, what is he gonna think of it? Or what is she gonna think of it? It just hold us back sometime. I think I got that. Yo, just put it out. Just let's see what. Just get creative. Not just put it out, but just get creative and see what the people think first, and
Yeah,
then you can um plan from there, and then just move on from that point.
100%. You never know until you do, right? You don't. You have no idea what's gonna come out. You don't know what they're gonna think. You don't know what they're gonna say. You don't know if they're gonna interact with it until you put it out.
Wow. Right.
100%.
Right.
You never
Hey,
know.
my last question for you. That was amazing, by the way. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Man, I've been following you for a while. I've been wanting to get this done for a while. So I'm so grateful you're here today. My
Yeah.
last question is, if you had to just restart this whole thing again and you were starting today, like what would you be doing?
What I did. Do I know everything I know?
Yeah, no,
No.
yes, you
Uh,
know everything you know now, but you're
oh,
starting over.
I think I'd do exactly what I'm doing right now again. Just doing it all over again and trying to refine it and just bring like what I'm doing now, like bringing it up to the higher dollar amount that I think I'm worth, opposed to what I used to think I was worth. Because
Mm,
with all of this extra space come more expenses, right? So like it's gonna cost more because it's costing me more. Like, and that's no shade at any of the homies or anybody that I used to record or whatever, if it's out of the budget or whatever. It's not personal, it's just it's not free for me anymore. You know, it
mm,
kind of was before a little bit, you know, it was cheap rent or whatever you want to call it, but now price went up
yeah,
and well, then the price goes up for me. I'm sorry about that. I'm not sorry. And you know, it is what it is. Like this is just it's all part of the whole game. Like I hate using the word game because I don't think it's an entire game, but it's just all part of the process. Like you know, my dad was saying it last week. He goes, all that stuff before, that's old business. All those people that owe you money, all those people that want to come through for free or whatever, like unless it's like one-off little things here and there, like where it's the boy like in town or whatever, that kind of stuff I'll always oblige. But besides that, like that old business can stay where it was because they don't want to, you know, there are people who do want to pay you what you're worth moving
yeah.
forward now in this new space. They're out there. You just gotta find them.
Wow. So what I got is go up with the game, go up with your time, go like not be scared of asking people like what you worth for as
The
well.
more you
Like
invest in yourself, the more it's
yeah,
worth.
yeah,
100%. 100%.
man,
Because you're
yeah,
learning, you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you're getting new equipment and you're getting better at mixing and just everything.
yeah.
100%.
I think
Yeah.
I man, I learned a lot today, man. I actually this gonna help me so much, and thank you very much, man. I appreciate you. Okay.
I'm glad.
All
I'm
right.
glad you got a lot out of it. And I'm excited to see what the people think. Because I've never
Oh,
done something like this where we put one on the internet, which I'm down for. I said I'm down for it. I'm just interested to see what they think.
hey, I definitely send you the link so you can always check out the comments when I post it.
For
All right.
sure.
All right.
Appreciate it, bro.
All good.
Thank you.
All good.